Hello Calabasas Library friends. This is Chef Steph. I'm back with an amazing recipe. We are going to be making tomato sauce. So this is a quick tomato sauce. It's not a sauce that cooks for hours and hours and hours. It's something that you can do quickly and obtain a good flavor palette, but at the same time not take an entire day to cook, because most of us don't have that kind of time anymore. All right, so how we're going to start is we are going to utilize some fresh Roma tomatoes. Now, most people grow Roma tomatoes in their gardens, so that's another reason I chose this particular recipe to share with you today, so that we can utilize the vegetables that are coming out of our garden. So what we would do first is we need to get the skin off. Most tomato sauces require skinning the tomatoes first. I personally like to leave the skin on, and then at the end of the cooking process, I take an immersion blender to the whole pot, and I retain some of the nutrients from the skin. So if you are going to be one of those who take the skin off, it's a very simple process. You're going to take your tomato, you're going to take a little paring knife, come over to this camera, and we're going to make an X right at the bottom here. I need to cut this, I need to sharpen that knife. It should be cutting easier than that. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do another cut. See, simple. Then we're gonna take plain boiling water, not salted, nothing. So I'm going to use my spider, and I'm going to drop it into the water. Drop my next one into the water. I could have put some extra water in this, because you can see they're kind of trying to escape. So very large Roma tomatoes. So we're only going to leave these guys in for 30 seconds. The process of the skin peeling away from the flesh of the tomato happens very quickly. So while we're waiting for this to happen, I am going to take my ice water bath, which I prepared ahead of time. And once we feel that these tomatoes have been blistered enough to be able to peel them, we're going to drop them into the ice bath. The ice bath is going to drop the temperature of the tomatoes drastically, very quickly, and then we're going to be able to handle it and peel it faster. It's all in the timing. Now these guys, they need just a few more seconds. Okay, it appears that our tomatoes are ready for us to remove from the boiling water. So first, I'm going to turn off my induction burner. Then we're going to take a little bit of the hot water off. We're going to dunk that guy right into the ice bath. And we'll let these guys sit here for just a couple of seconds. It doesn't have to be a long time. It's just enough so that you can handle it. So I can actually already pick it up. So here we go. Oops. I'm gonna bring you over to this guy. See how easily this peels off? Oh yes. Very nice. See that? Perfect. that in there. Peel this one off. There we go. Put that in there. And now we are ready to chop up our tomatoes so that we can get started on making our sauce. Just put that over there. All right, so here we go. I am going to take my chef's knife. Now, whenever you cut a tomato, you want to remove the seeds, you're going to want to cut the very top off just a little bit, and then you're going to want to cut off the bottom. It's a great rule of thumb whenever you have an object, a vegetable or a fruit that's round, you want to cut it so that you have at least one flat side, so that it's not rolling all over your cutting board. That can be dangerous. Okay. Let me move our camera. Okay, now we're set. So what you do is you can see the spots where you would have seeds. So this cutting technique is called pickle. So you're literally gonna cut at an angle and kind of come back in at the bottom. It looks like a petal. Again, we're gonna do that. Oops. Now see here, it's once I start cutting off at the bottom, it's gonna start kind of moving around again. So I can turn it over, and then now I have a nice flat side. Going to pickle and pickle. So here we go. Very nice. There's not a whole lot of waste. The seeds are, and this is just gonna add to, you don't need that for your sauce. So it's a good idea just to remove it. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to use my thumb and I'm going to remove the remaining seeds inside that little petal. There we go. And once more. There we have it. And then these pieces here, these were from the top and the bottom, and they're completely viable. There's no reason that we can't use these pieces, so I'm just gonna put them in my bowl of tomatoes that we will be utilizing. So again, add that to that. Then I'm gonna cut that top off again. Again, perfect. And then look, this is really the only waste that we have from the tomato, which is great. There's really no reason to waste any food. Since we're going to use an immersion blender, we don't have to be concerned about how big the pieces are, but I don't want them to be too big because that's just going to increase our cook time. This sauce is so easy. Sometimes I just use diced tomatoes that are already in a can. Let someone else do the work for me, especially if I'm in a big hurry. Then that way I can have a fresh pasta sauce in no time flat. All right. But for the sake of our gardening videos here, or cooking from our gardens, I wanted to show you the fresh version. The recipe will show you though, either the fresh version or the diced version. Actually, the recipe will show you the fresh tomato version or the canned diced tomato version. All right, Now that we have finished chopping up all of our tomatoes, our onions, our garlic, picked some basil out of our garden, and gathered our salt and some oregano, we're ready to start the cooking process. So we're going to begin by adding some olive oil. We're going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil to the pan. Maybe just a little bit more. That's about right. Tablespoon of olive oil, and we're gonna let that we're gonna let that heat up. I don't want it to get too hot, but at the same time, it needs to be able to make the onion sizzle when it hits the pan. You don't want to put the onions into the pan too soon, because what's going to happen is if the pan isn't super hot before we put the onion in, it's going to sweat the onions instead of cooking them. I want to achieve a slight caramelization, We're going to have it be translucent. We're not going to make caramelized onions, but you have more flavor when the heat of the pan is enough that you can that the onion will adhere to the pan during that cooking process. If you have either too many onions in the pan or if it's not hot enough to begin with, that's when it starts to sweat. So I'm going to take a tiny piece of onion, and you can see right here that it has sizzled. So now it's appropriate to kind of tilt this so that I get oil all the way through here. I'm going to add my onion to my pan. Now this is half a yellow onion. It's about a medium-sized onion, medium to large. If you like more onion, then you could use a large onion. If you just want to have that nice onion subtle flavor, then by all means go for the medium. So I'm just going to kind of spread these out so that they have ample room to cook up. Okay, so our onions have been cooking for about 3-4 minutes, and we're achieving that translucent look. We do have a little bit of browning. It cooks fast, so you have to watch it at all times. Just gonna kind of shift this around. And then we're gonna add our garlic. We have 3 cloves of garlic. In the event that you love garlic, feel free to add more. All right. Now, garlic cooks extremely quickly. So you want to make sure that you don't allow it to cook more than 30 seconds to a minute, depending upon the heat that you're using. Right now I have it at about a medium heat, so I need to really watch it because this induction burner runs really hot. So even at a medium heat, it cooks really fast. But normal gas, you could probably go for the 30 seconds to a minute. Just know your own tools that you have, your stovetop. That's your best line of defense. All right, so no one likes burned garlic. That is not a fun taste. All right, so now I'm gonna take my tomatoes, and this is about 12 tomatoes, fresh tomatoes. And I've chosen to use Roma tomatoes. Why do we use Roma tomatoes? Well, Roma tomatoes are one of the paste tomatoes. That's how they're referred to. They make really great sauces. So San Marzanos, those are considered a Roma. So those are going to be your best bet when making a sauce. All right. I'm also going to add in a little bit of tomato paste. I like to use tomato paste in a tube. Now, I'm going to try to make my own tomato paste this summer once I have my abundant crop of tomatoes. I would love to be able to do that. It might not happen this year, but I would like to do it. But for convenience-wise, these little tubes are amazing. I really, really appreciate them. Because how many times do we open up even one of those small containers of tomato paste and then we never end up finishing it? And I always feel very wasteful. So I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of tomato paste. I'm just going to kind of work that into the mixture. See, it's already mixed in completely. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to allow this, hold on, I have some herbs to add. So we're going to add in some basil, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a tear. This is about 4 or 5 leaves of basil. If you don't care for basil or if you don't have it on hand, not a big deal. You can always use dried basil if you have that in your pantry. Here's some oregano. Oregano is great to have. I'm going to only add about, I'm not a huge fan of oregano, but over the years I've grown to like it a little bit more. And I'll use about a half of a teaspoon of oregano. Then I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of salt, of sea salt. Once the sauce is complete, you always want to test, obviously, your sauce. You want to give it a taste test. And if you feel at that time that it needs a little more salt, then by all means add a little bit more. You don't want to add a ton all at once because you can never take back. So I say add as we go and make sure that it's the taste that you're looking for. So once this is all mixed in, we are going to cover this and we're going to allow the juices to naturally escape from the fresh tomatoes, and then it'll begin to cook and break down. So we're going to cook for this for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we will see how it's doing. I'll see you back in about 20-30 minutes. All right, it has been 25 minutes since we started the cooking process of our pasta sauce. It is done. It looks delicious. Boy, does it look delicious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a freezer safe container and I am going to ladle in a good amount of sauce. Now this particular recipe doesn't make vats and vats of sauce. It's basically for 1 or 2 meals, unless you have a larger family. So the likelihood that you would freeze this is not super high. However, if you had tomatoes in your garden that you needed to cook up because they were gonna go bad, this is what you can do. So you can make some sauce and you can freeze it, and it'll keep in the freezer for a good number of months. So what I like to do, you could definitely, most definitely use the sauce as is. Some people like a chunkier sauce. Some people like a smoother sauce. I like one that's kind of in the middle. So I am going to take my immersion blender. This one's by Calflon. I got it, gosh, probably 5-6 years ago. It was very inexpensive and it's been a workhorse. I mean, I use my immersion blender often. Once this one takes a dive and it is no longer able to be used, I really want to get the Breville one. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it or have it. Let me know how you like it. I'm very excited about it. All right, so I'm going to put in my immersion blender and I'm going to just move this up and down. Whoops, let me move the other camera. So now what I will do is I will use the immersion blender to mix this all up to the consistency that I prefer. You want to make sure that you don't pull the immersion blender completely out, because otherwise you're going to have tomato sauce everywhere. If you have kids, something you can do, especially if you're going to, mix it up like this so that you really can't tell what's in it. If you have children and you have a hard time getting them to eat vegetables, you could definitely add carrot and maybe some spinach and some other vegetables in here that you can hide so that they can get the nutrients they want, or I'm sorry, that they need, not that they want. That's why they won't eat the stuff, because it looks weird, right? All right, so this is actually a really nice consistency. I'm happy with this. Once we have this, the desired thickness that we want, we are going to put our sauce into an ice bath. The ice bath is going to bring the temperature of the sauce down quickly, because we don't want to put a hot substance into your freezer or even into your refrigerator. It's going to lower the internal temperature of the fridge. It's going to end up making it work harder. That motor's just going to lose some life, and then it's going to potentially drop the temperature into dangerous bacteria growing zones that are bad for your other foods that are in your refrigerator or freezer. So I am going to take an ice bath and I am going to leave it in here until the internal temperature, until I can basically, if I needed to, put my finger in to make sure that it's not too hot. We want it to be completely cooled. And this is a good way of making it happen faster, because you don't want any foods sitting out on the counter at room temperature for longer than 4 hours. That's, again, a food danger zone. So you want to make sure that you're within that compliance so that dangerous bacteria doesn't form and, cause a problem for you and your family. So for me personally right now, I would add more ice to this because I want to raise the level a little bit more. So, because right now it's at about right here, we're going to want to bring it up right to where the level is that the sauce is at the top. So there we have it. And then you can store this in the freezer for a few months. and use it at any time that you want. Now, in the event that this type of a container is too large for what you and your family would use, put it into something smaller so that you don't have to waste. My whole thing is I don't like wasting food, so I want to make sure that at any time, in any way, I can, guess as to how much we would need and then have that exact amount. So drop a comment, let me know if you liked this video. Thank you again to the Calabasas Library for allowing me to do these videos for this summer. Again, I missed you all, not being able to see you in person, but I think that this is the next best thing. So I encourage you to make any comment that you like. I would love to be able to have a conversation with you. So I hope to see you next summer. Make sure to follow me at potstockandladle.com. That is my blog, and I will be launching that very soon. Right now you can find me at Pot, Stock, and Ladle on YouTube. Thank you again so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye. Cooking stage of the process. So we're going to take some olive oil and throw the lid. We're going to turn on, okay, I just totally messed up all of that. Oh gosh. I hope to see you next summer, and make sure to follow me at